opposites attract, but you do have to have the big things are important.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have the same morals, the same values, the same big things. And so couples sometimes will get frustrated, like, man, all we ever do is we fight about the little things. And that gets them, that's so frustrating. We're fighting about this dumb little thing. Yeah, because you're good on the big things.
Sure.
And you should be good on the big things, right?
This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate Marriagecast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 97. We are so glad that you're joining us today and so proud of you for making this investment in your marriage, this investment in your relationship that will yield so much fruit. We have a great show for you today. We have a special guest back, Tony Bohr with Suit Empire Christian Counseling. Tony, welcome back to the show. We're so glad to have you.
I'm excited to be back, and I'm still a special guest, right?
You
At some point, you're like, it's just
yeah.
Tony again.
Just
but
Tony.
For now, I'm still special, so I like that. Thank you.
Special guest and friend of the Celebrate Marriagecast and a friend of Ryan and Michelle. So we're glad to have you back on the show, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. What's new, Tony?
Busy summer, soccer, vacations. I went fishing in Canada, did a lot of cool, fun stuff.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And some of that, we did some of the same things, right? The soccer stuff is, I was one day, the next day you were at the soccer games, and we both got to see really cool, fun, good games.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
So we were referencing last time you were on the CONCACAF, which I don't know what
Gold
that stands
Cup.
for.
I don't know what it is.
The CONCACAF Gold Cup, where we were both at the quarterfinals. You were in Arizona, and we were in Minneapolis.
Yes.
But I think the story was actually this. We were sharing that we were going, and they were like, Tony, it's going to be in Arizona the day before, because for the quarterfinals, 2 games are going to be in Arizona, 2 are going to be in Minnesota. And I think we kind of egged you on, like we put the fuel in the fire, right?
The true story, or the funny story is I already knew that was going to be there.
You did.
But I hadn't done anything because my wife was down there, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just kind of see, and didn't know the tickets. And then we had talked about this, and my wife had already texted me, and she's like, Tony, I have 2 tickets. Do you want me to go, or do you want to take our daughter? And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just glad to go. It's like, well, I was just talking about this with Ryan and Michelle. And so there's this cool part. It's like, she's like, did you know that was there? I'm like, oh, yes. I knew where the soccer games were. I was like, I was kind of trying to spring that on you. Wait, when I got there, maybe we could find some cheaper tickets, like the day of kind of a thing. But
that is so
good
sweet
wife,
of her.
and she took care of it. And she's like, I already have 2 tickets for you.
That is so awesome.
Thank
Great job,
you.
Michelle. Tony's wife is also named Michelle.
Yes.
That's so cool. Good for you guys. And Tony, that was your birthday weekend, right?
Yes.
So
hence my birthday present.
very cool. And I feel like we were, like, us 2 couples were like going to the quarterfinals together, because you guys were there Saturday for an epic Mexico game versus, who did they play? Not Honduras. That was the second
it was
game.
the other team.
We couldn't remember.
I don't remember. It was pretty
man.
funny.
It's all fleeting,
Mexico
right?
won,
Success
so
and
I was on the
wins.
Mexico side cheering with them. So
Yes.
it's in a good spot.
As we were, we had become Guatemala fans when we were there, mainly because we were sitting with a lot of Guatemalan fans.
I felt really bad because we do have friends from Canada, and we are hours from the Canadian border. But once we got to the arena, like, everyone around us was like from Guatemala. And I was like, well, we have stadium friends. We have to like support them too.
Right.
So
yeah,
it was pretty
And it's
exciting.
usually a wise move to cheer for the people that are right around you, just to keep it safe. So
yes.
We had a lot of fun.
We didn't do that in the second game because they
We cheered
continued
USA.
to cheer for Costa Rica.
okay.
And,
And you're like,
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
we're staying.
I mean, I was
USA.
wearing a USA
Jersey.
so
USA
like,
all the way.
Yep,
Yeah.
It was
exactly.
fun.
But it was kind of fun to text back and forth, like, hey, we're at this game, this is going on. And the next day, you're like, oh, we're here, and this is what's going on. I'm like, yep. But you kind of know what the other person just went through. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
It was
Like a
super fun.
virtual joint experience there.
Yes.
So very
Yeah.
cool. Well, Tony, it's great to have you back. So that was new. The soccer games are new since the last time you were here. Also, there's a lot of stuff going on in the news, and we just had a little huddle before the meeting, and we just want to be relevant with what's going on culturally as well. And we talked about just the affair that was exposed at the Coldplay concert. It's all over the news this week. As we're recording this will air next Tuesday, so it'll probably still be in the news. But we just wanted to reference that really quick and just say, like, hey, if that's brought to light anything in your own relationship or if that's led to conversations. We did an amazing episode on affair-proofing your marriage with you, Tony, I thought it was like 2 months ago. I was like, we just did one. And Patrick looked it up. He's like, that was in November. So scroll down to November of last year. And I think it was episode 60 something, 60.
Yeah,
so
60, I believe. Yeah.
So find that episode. You gave some great tips for that. And you just had a post in your social that there is help and hope. If that is your current situation, there is hope.
Yeah, and it's a big thing, obviously. It's everywhere and everybody can see it, and that's kind of part of it. It went viral in the public part of it, but there's always people and it's hurting and it's tough, and people like to pile on and kind of go, oh, but there's families and there's people behind there that are kind of hurting. And I mean, this is what I do for a living, so I know that pain, and there's people that they don't have their affairs exposed out on TV and media, but they're still trying to figure things out. What's the best path to walk through and to do some of that stuff. And so, yeah, if you're having all those feelings and doing all that stuff, go watch that episode, go seek out, ask some therapy, find some help, because it's going to seem overwhelming at times. But the cool part is there are ways through this. There are healthy ways to rebuild and go and do all those things. And so if you're feeling kind of alone, at least go look and see that there's some help and some other people have been through it, gone through it, and come out the other side.
Yeah, that's a great word, Tony. And as we were talking, the story that came to my mind is when Jesus drew a line in the sand, and people, I think actually the story, the woman in the story was actually an adulteress.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And he had said, hey, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Like, we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So just be kind in your, the memes going around and all of that stuff. Like, this is someone's family destroyed. And anyway, so we wanted to say that there's hope, hope for you if it's brought up stuff in your own relationship. And just knowing that, sin always comes to light. Like, it might seem like it's in darkness right now, but in time, things come to light. So just maybe there's some convictions going on, and just reaching out and getting help if that's your situation. So thanks, Tony.
Yeah, Tony, that's such a good word. I like what you said. There's people involved. Like, it's easy to like just brush over it or make fun of it and do all of that. And I really like that word. That just remember like. There's people, there's families involved. And
I think that's just important when you're watching social media or some of those things. Is this isn't like a movie or a TV story and this is fiction, right? This is people. This is real stuff, and we need to remember that.
Yeah, good word. Yeah. Well, we are talking about attraction today, right? So that's really important to keep that attraction strong in your marriage.
Fun stuff,
And we're excited for this show topic. So let's jump in.
Yeah. So Tony, we're gonna go back. So really you start at the beginning, I think, of any relationship when we talk about this topic of attraction. So let's go back to when we first met, right? So the first time that you meet your spouse, what attracted you to your spouse? What stood out? What was it that was like, okay, yeah, there's something there.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear this from you guys, because this is the fun part about the story is we get to hear this from everybody. I don't have all the answers. It's all individual, and it's our own stories, and we'll talk a little bit about later why those stories are important. But for me, just a little background, I met my wife a long time ago. We started dating when I was 16.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yes, we are high school sweethearts.
Wow.
And she's actually...
Maybe you shared that, but gosh, 16, I didn't know that number.
She's 2 years older than me. So then when you talk about what attracted me to her...
Was she a senior?
Yes.
You were like a sophomore, she was a senior?
Yes, I was a sophomore and she was
Tony.
a senior. So,
wow.
Yeah, so mature, right? That's like, I don't know. But anyways, what attracted us... we were friends, so we were talking and we were hanging out and we were spending time together. And the funny part about this whole story is one day my mom is like, so how long you been dating Michelle, my wife? And I'm like, we're not dating. She's like, yeah, I think you are. I'm like, no, we're not. It's like, she's like, you hang out, you do this. I'm like, I'm like, oh, we hang out together all the time. I look forward to talking to her. I like telling her about my day. All of a sudden it was like, she was my friend, right? And so that was the piece, that friendship just grew and grew and grew to the point where we're spending more and more time, that my mom was like, I think you guys are dating. And the funny story is like, we really weren't. But I think I wanted to. So
Your mom knew.
So we were such good friends, and this is kind of the basis of our relationship, and our theme is that we went and sat down and had a conversation if we should date or not.
That's cool.
We went to a park, sat down, like, hey, we're going to do this. Are we going to date or not? And we kind of did the little pros and cons list of, hey, if we do this or not. And we kind of talked through, but we were such good friends that we could talk about anything, right? So I could easily go, like, hey, I think I'd like to date you. What do you think about that? And that has been through our relationship the whole time. But that was what attracted, was just that her heart and her friendship, that we can just talk about anything. And so that just grew from there. So that is my story of my mom knew we were dating before I did.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit. I don't know your guys' story. How did you guys meet?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was so it was kind of an arranged meeting that took about a year in the works. So my good friend Heather, that works with you still to this date, we're college friends. We worked at the Buckle together in college and go way back. Well, she had been telling me for over a year, like, oh, there's this guy I work with. He's so so kind. He has these handsome blue eyes, and he plays soccer, and he golfs, and he runs, and you guys would be perfect. All the things that you like to do. And but I also knew that you were a widower. You had lost your wife Megan to cancer, and I just thought, gosh, I lost my father at a young age. I watched my mom go through being a widow, and it just was like, gosh, that's like next level stuff that you're going through and dealing with. And it'd been a little bit of time, but so I was very hesitant, and we put this off. I don't know what your excuse was for not wanting to meet me. I think you just, or not excuse, but I think you were just like, no, I have other stuff going on. I'm raising Ella. Like, I don't have time for dating. Like, no.
Right.
Yeah. So we both were like, no, just back off. But she wore us down.
Yeah. It was like a year in the making.
Yeah. And we finally agreed, and she threw a quaint backyard barbecue with about 40 people there.
Was the sole purpose for you two, or is that okay?
Yeah,
So
Tony.
let's invite a few other people to make it comfortable instead of like 6 people. But
Tony,
the whole party was the Ryan and Michelle party.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tony wasn't comfortable because everybody knew.
Everyone at the party knew who was watching the two of you, right?
Yeah.
That's classic.
It was the most awkward thing. It was like grade school almost, because it was like we were standing by each other, and it was like, everybody look, Ryan and Michelle are talking to each other, like they were whispering.
Are they smiling at each other?
Right.
How's it going?
Yeah, it was kind of that. It was super, super awkward.
So then you asked me on a date after that, and we had dinner together. I actually, I thought you were handsome, but I wasn't initially like, oh my gosh, I'm going to date this man, because at that first dinner after the barbecue, I had asked you about your faith. And I just said, hey, I've done this my way, and it's ended horribly. And I can't do this my way anymore. My next relationship has to have a foundation on Jesus. It has to be done God's way. And that's just that. So where are you plugged in for a local church? And you were like, well, I'm not really. And I was like, okay, well, okay. And that was kind of it for a little while. But you had called me a couple weeks later and said, hey, I want to let you know that Ella and I went to this church down the road from my house. I was like, Ryan, that's so great. And I was like, how was it? You said, well, it was kind of a disaster because Ella was rolling around in the pews and I couldn't concentrate, all this stuff, couldn't focus. And I said, well, the church that I'm going to, I'm pretty sure their kids ministry is pretty happening. It looks pretty happening on the weekends. You could come with me. And the first weekend you came with me, it's like the Lord had a word for you. It was so dead on with your situation, all of the anger that you were carrying and how you would harden off your heart to the Lord. And I feel like it was exactly what you needed to hear.
Yeah.
So I feel like my attraction to Ryan started after that moment. It started when God got a hold of him again and doing a work in him. But all those things, I was attracted to his handsome blue eyes. I was attracted to the fact that he's an excellent soccer player, still is. You're kind of cocky on the soccer field. And I remembered you. I actually kind of thought you were that guy.
Yeah. That's how, it started, that I was the cocky soccer player. And
you have swagger.
Yeah. Part of, I've never like smack talked like anybody. It just, maybe that's what made it cocky.
Well, you just scored a lot of goals.
I just scored a lot of goals and then walked back.
Walked back like, yeah, I've done this before.
I've done it.
But that was pretty attractive.
Yeah.
I knew that you were a good soccer player.
Yeah.
So there were many things that attracted me to you.
Yeah.
But especially when God started changing your heart.
Yeah. 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 I mean, all of those things, I think part of, coming from what I did, I feel like I kind of tiptoed into it a little bit when we first started because, I think a lot of people, you carry things.
Yeah.
Right? Like you carry things from your past, and part of like even like the physical attraction was a difficult thing for me to even comprehend. Because like having been married, lost a spouse, and like as you're like healing, I think that's part of why there was a year long, of saying no, was just trying. There was so much healing that I was trying to do. And so even when we started dating, it was kind of like
scary.
There was a lot of things. And I think a lot of people can probably, maybe not that situation, but maybe there's something else where, you've gone through a bad relationship and then you kind of tiptoe in because you're afraid, you're scared of what has happened before. And so, I think that was a lot of it. There was just a lot of healing that needed to be done. But, I remember, Michelle, like our first part of one of the things that like I attracted me to you is that like our first date, that outside of the awkward barbecue, of which I was like physically sick before I
didn't even need anything at the barbecue, right?
And classic Ryan, you were maybe 30 minutes early. And I think classic Michelle back in the day, probably 20 minutes late because I couldn't figure out my outfit. So that added
You'd
to
already been there an hour,
anxiety.
right? You're like, I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, I'd been there an hour and I'm like just a wreck. So yeah, but the first time you and I actually went on a date, one of the things that I still remember is like we talked for hours. Like I'm not a big talker, so like the fact that we were there talking for that long was like, okay, there's something here. Like, the fact that we're talking and like I didn't just sit there and stare at you in silence.
Right. You use words also.
Talking was smooth or comfortable and not awkward.
Yes. It was comfortable. Yes, absolutely. So, I think that's kind of what started it for me.
And my beauty.
And your beauty. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thanks, love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing too, I think I had this really unique, I don't even know if I want to call it a gift, but I think I was able to hold your heart really delicately in those scary moments for you by using my broken parts of my story, losing my father very young, watching my mom go through all of that. I had this really unique perspective that I never thought would be able to be used, but I was able to use that, how I showed up with you, how I met Megan's family, how I shared my heart with them, and just wanting to be a part of Ella's life and not replacing anybody, but being in addition to all of your stories.
Yeah.
Was a really amazing God thing that I never saw coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to jump into the second question because it fits perfectly what you guys just talked about. So the second question we're going to talk about is like, how much of that initial attraction was physical versus emotional? Mm. And most of the time, the physical stuff is kind of easy. Of course, you're going to be attracted to somebody and kind of do that. But what I liked about your stories, if you guys listen to that, is it's the emotional stuff. Hey, once I got to see him and see his heart, Tony, he got really attractive. He was really handsome. Yeah, he was nice. He had pretty eyes. It was pretty cool, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
But there's that.
Sweet, you guys.
But there's that piece of when I got to see his heart. Then I got to see that other piece, and you were kind of talking about it. It's like, you even said, I don't know where that physical attraction fit with, because I was so worried and this and that, and I didn't know, is this okay? Is this not okay? You were working through all that stuff, and you just said, I kind of went really slow and took care of his heart and did that. That's the stuff that's attractive. That's the stuff that builds that physical attraction bigger and bigger and bigger. And if that's one of the things that we can kind of remind couples, or if you're dating, is don't get too focused on the, she's cute. Yeah, he's handsome. That's kind of why. So what's on your list? Well, she's cute. No, that shouldn't really be the biggest thing on your list. And if you get
looks change too.
Yeah, and looks change,
people are
and
going to
they're
age.
different. Yeah, so we joked is, my wife fell in love with me when I was 16. I'm a different person than I was when I was 16. Right? Hopefully the core, the essence of me is still the same. I know that her heart is still the same. I see that. And so, that changes and that goes. But when you guys are talking is, that you have to have that a little initial physical attraction, but that's actually really easy. The harder part is, can you slow down? Can you look at that person's heart and see that? And in your story, when you guys were talking, it's like, I got to see him when we were at church. That's when that guy really got attractive. When she was slowing down and just listening to me and being patient with me and understanding that I'm hurting and I got some stuff to work through, that's the thing that made your wife look really attractive. And I think people miss that a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes it deeper.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, for sure, like I've told you this story, but I remember when I came to pick you up, like I pulled into your apartment and you were outside. And I remember this moment, and I was just like, I verbally was like, oh, wow. I said it out loud. But one of the things that I think, Tony, that's such a good word, because one of the things that I think as we've been married longer, I think I find you more attractive for all of those reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
of all the life that we've done together through thick and thin. It's not that we haven't had low valley moments, but we've weathered all of that together.
Yeah.
Same
but
love.
that's something that has grown, over the years. And I think in a relationship, it shouldn't just be you've been married 15 years and you're like, oh, they're not cute anymore, or they're not handsome anymore. There's so much that goes into that. Mm-hmm. And I think can be such a beautiful picture when you add more to it other than the surface level.
Yeah, exactly. And if your goal is, hey, I'm going to marry the prettiest girl in the room. Okay. There's going to be different rooms. There's going to be different girls. And if that's your standard, if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be unhappy. That person, and if you're the girl, you're going to be like, oh man, I just got to make sure there's no one ever any prettier than me, or we're in trouble. And it's a crazy way to live, right? But as soon as it's like, oh, I see your heart, I see who you are, and when we do life together, we get more attracted to each other. That's that safety, that's that security. That's like, we're going to be fine no matter what. If you're trying to hold on to be the strongest, most handsome, or the most beautiful person, it's gonna pass. It's gonna change. There's always gonna be someone better, cooler. There's always gonna be a better soccer player.
Yes,
just so you know.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be somebody better.
Yeah.
But if you're attracted to that heart and you know that heart, there's nobody in this world that has his heart. There's nobody in this world that has her heart. Yeah. And that's the cool part. That's the power that keeps you connected.
Tony, do you think for couples that are already married, can they grow that attraction by getting to know each other's heart? How can they foster that and grow in their attraction to one another?
Yeah. The more it's the same stuff we always keep talking about, right? The more you share your feelings, the more that you share your heart. That's that intimacy, that shared feelings. the more you share that, the more it grows, right? And I always tell the story because you can do it backwards. Everybody has this circumstance where like, man, I was in with this group of people or at a barbecue and we're kind of talking and this girl walks up and man, she is just gorgeous. And as she starts talking, what happens? She doesn't get quite as cute anymore. Why doesn't she get quite as cute anymore? What happens?
Maybe they didn't connect
you start
intellectually
to see that
or
person's kind of personality. Oh,
Sure.
she's kind of shallow or she's kind of this. And it's like, oh, from across the room, she looked like this hot girl. But then when she's up here and I'm talking to her, it kind of goes down. Well, the reason I tell that story is you asked the question, it can also go the other way. The opposite's also true. It's like, oh, I'm talking to this person. Yeah, and you know what? They're getting more and more attractive. I want to spend more and more time with that
Sure.
person. I want to get more and more connected. Yeah, what's going on? Are they magically getting more beautiful? No, not usually, right?
Right.
You're seeing more and more of who they are. And
Sure.
when you get to see of who they are, it's like, wow, that person's really attractive.
Sure. Common interests, confidence,
all that stuff
ability
comes.
to talk for hours, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the stuff that makes it all attractive. So yeah, if you just go by the surface stuff, it's like, it's not going to last very long. It's like, oh, that person's pretty. Oh, no, she's not. Oh, yeah. It's like, whoa. But when you get to see that person's heart, it grows. And so when you ask if you're married, how do you make your spouse more attractive? Get to know them more. Share your heart. Hear their heart. That's that whole communication and talking. The more that happens and goes, and you hear those stories, the more that you start to see that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an old adage, Tony, about opposites and how opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe speak about this a little bit.
Short answer is true. Opposites attract. Also, if you're married long enough, opposites are the very thing that start to annoy you and frustrate you. The very things that attracted you to your spouse are the very things that drive you crazy, right? So for me, what I loved about my wife is she was organized. We were talking about before, she's this thinker, she's this planner, she takes care of stuff. She's really she buys me tickets ahead of time, right? I was going to wait for the last second and maybe do that. She's already got them. It's a perfect example of that. She's really organized and needs to know the plan and the stuff. That's what I like about her. That's also the thing that drives me nuts about her. Right? I'm like, can you just relax? Can you just be a little more laid back? Can you just have fun? Can you just go with the flow? And so you just have to kind of recognize this, hang on, God talks about two becoming one. And that's part of that reason why opposites attract is I'm a little more laid back. She's a little more organized. I shouldn't be trying to make her more like me. Yeah. I do sometimes, but in the beginning, that's what attracts. Oh man, she's really organized. She's this. My wife would say the same thing. Tony, he's laid back. He's kind of fun. He's kind of go with the flow. He's kind of fun to be around. If he could just be a little more organized and clean up the house a little bit more and pick up his stuff, that's where those opposites attract, but they kind of get in the way.
Sure.
You guys opposites?
Yes.
Yes.
We are.
Very much so.
Yes. I was going to say, we interviewed an author, John Anderson, a few months back. I don't know, again, could have been 1 month ago, could have been a year. But he had a story in his book about how he was kind of complaining about how his wife was so talkative all the time. And one of his friends called him out and said, John, that's what you loved about your wife when you were dating because it helped you to feel comfortable in social situations. It's how you met most of your friends in your friend group. So that was kind of a wake-up call for him where he took those thoughts captive and refocused and said, okay, yeah, I do love that about my wife. So I think maybe it's even for couples listening, going back to that and realizing I did really love that. You know, I loved all these things about Ryan. Like I still love those things and just kind of reviewing them. So yes, we are very different.
Do you have an example, Michelle?
I mean, most everything.
Most everything.
I'm pretty detailed and very organized. Not that you're not organized at work, but I feel like in home setting, you're just a little more go with the flowy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
But that's crazy to me too, because you're in finances, which is very detailed. You're very analytical at work. Maybe you wear it out at work. I think you exhaust all of that at work.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I think communication, I'm an over communicator. Ryan is maybe more of an under communicator, or just
I like
like
silence.
necessary details.
I like silence. I'm perfectly okay if we just sit by each other and don't. I mean,
Yeah.
That's extreme, but yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we are very different in. But Tony, I love what you said about the two coming together as one, and I think that's such a beautiful picture of oftentimes like it's conflict and it's like, oh man, like this is like it rubs now, like we're different and it rubs, but going back to one, that initial, like what was it that attracted you to your spouse? I like answering that question. And then the two of you coming together, as one, each with, laid back, very type A person coming together as just this beautiful picture.
Do you have an example?
I don't know. There's just a lot of things.
Off the top of your head.
The first one that comes, and we've shared this. I don't know. We've shared this about like there's a lot of things that need to be done in our house before like we go to bed.
Yeah. So I can sleep peacefully.
Yeah. So like I just could go to sleep. Like it's bedtime. I can go to sleep. Like I'm not thinking about, the dishes need to be done. The laundry needs to be folded and put away. Like all of these things. Like
it's just a good best practice. Wrap it all up.
It never crosses my mind to be like, I need to put the house to sleep in perfect order before I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
That never crosses my mind ever.
The house to sleep. It's kind of catchy.
Yeah. Just everything needs to be tucked in tight and then I could go to sleep.
Which is a good example of you guys
laundry folded.
being different, right?
Yeah.
One way isn't any better than the other, but you thought, I like this about her. I like this about him. And when you talked about those kind of two becoming one, it's always cool that goes like, hey, it's two and they become one. But
because now you're on my team. You have become one.
The reality is two become one kind of like this.
They clash first.
Right.
And then they
kind of
merge.
rub and there's that friction. Well, you only can have friction if you're close together, but that's the piece where you're like talking and figuring that out.
Yeah.
And then, but there's this piece of opposites attract, but you do have to have the big things are important.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have the same morals, the same values, the same big things. And so couples sometimes will get frustrated, like, man, all we ever do is we fight about the little things. And that gets them, that's so frustrating. We're fighting about this dumb little thing. Yeah. Because you're good on the big things.
Sure.
And you should be good on the big things, right? And when we talked about, church, right? That was going to be a deal breaker for you. If he doesn't go to church and he's not in that spot, that's not one of those opposites attracts things. Like, no, we got to get these big ones first.
Yeah.
And you would have some, if you think back, it's like, I need to make sure Michelle's on the same page with me on this and doing that. And once like, okay, we got these big ones. Yeah, the other ones we're going to fight about. We're going to be friction. It's like it's putting the house to sleep or not, or all those kind of things. They can get probably annoying and frustrating with couples sometimes, but they're little things. And those are the opposites attract that we're just trying to get this all to fit nice.
Now you're a great partner in that. And then every night you will say something to the effect of, Michelle, what all needs to be done out here? Does dishes good, laundry good, lights off, doors checked? Here are all the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes you'll just do it and then you'll tell me.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
I checked the laundry, I did the dishes,
Right.
I locked the doors, lights are off.
I tucked in our house tonight.
Yeah,
We're good.
That's right.
Ryan, when you asked for stories of Ryan and I, the story that keeps popping into my head, and I was trying to figure out, it doesn't fit at all with the question, but all I can think of is when you thought I was standing you up for our second date, but I legit had a problem that arose.
Yeah.
So anyways, I went tanning before, or I think it was our second date.
Yeah.
And I had to text Ryan and tell him that my car rolled away and I wouldn't be able to make it in time for our date. And he thought I was standing him up.
Your car rolled away?
I lost my Mustang. My Mustang disappeared.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
Stolen?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought someone was playing a prank on me. I thought somebody stole it. Turns out I went tanning, and the clutch, like sometimes it would pop out of place. It was a 5-speed, and the e-brake or something must not have been engaged, or I don't know what happened, but it rolled backwards across the parking lot. Luckily, it didn't hit a car. And there was a little creek marsh area on the other side of the parking lot, and it rolled down into that. So finally, I was walking around the parking lot thinking I was losing my mind, and I saw my car in the creek.
Yeah.
And they had to tow it out, and there were cattails coming out of the front lights and stuff. But eventually, I made it to our date. I was like, I'm not standing you up. My car literally rolled away, and I lost it.
Yeah.
My Mustang up and disappeared.
Yeah. But
I was not standing you up.
Getting that text message was like, oh, come on. Really?
God clearly wanted you guys together, because what I've learned is your first date, there was 40 people around all watching you, and you powered through that one. Your second date, your car rolled into a creek and didn't know if it was going to work or not.
Well, so the second date would have been Spezia, which we considered our first date. And that was when I gave him the church lowdown. Hey, here's where I am with Faith. So the third or second date was the missing Mustang.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great story.
Standing you up. It was a true story, but I was late to that.
Yeah. Do you guys have any funny stories of dating that kind of changed things?
Obviously, the funny story of like, should we date or not is a funny story. Sit down and talk. Another one that is funny because lots of people nowadays don't get that, but just due to our ages. So I was 16, and then my wife had to. She was going to go to Baylor University in Texas.
Okay.
Well, she didn't get in right away. So that first semester, she was at Sioux Falls College or University of Sioux Falls. And then she was going to go down. And so then she went down, and we were far away from each other and dating. And this is back in the day where there wasn't any cell phones. And so we wrote letters.
Wow.
I wrote a letter to my wife at least once a week.
Do you have them still?
Oh, boxes of them.
That's so
my
cool.
wife wants to chuck them, and I'm like, no, we're keeping them. She's
that's
like,
awesome.
They don't matter. I'm like, they're cool, and I'm keeping them, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them. My kids can read them and chuck them, I guess. But so we would write letters, and then we would call each other once a week on Sunday nights when the phone was cheap, or we'd get these phone cards. And so I often joke to my wife, I'm like, hey, we should buy this. I'm like, well, I spent so much money buying phone cards. I was working, and all I would do is buy phone cards and call my girlfriend. Buy phone calls and call my girlfriend.
That's awesome.
So it was fun, but it's a funny story, and people are like, why didn't you just text her? And I'm like, oh man, there was no FaceTime. I FaceTime my grandson now. I'm like, man, this is awesome. And it was like, I would have loved this dating. This would have been awesome. But it taught me and taught her, is like, if you're going to communicate, let's really put the work in and do that. So when you're writing letters and you're talking, is that you get to see that other person and understand them a little bit, because you're pouring your heart out, and it's effort, and it's kind of stuff. And so
probably helped your communication.
I think it did great. And that kind of was part of that. Our
full sentences,
friendship.
paragraphs.
Yes, it was like, write nice. But it was all fun. So that's a kind of a fun story of like, I had to work really hard, and so did my wife, just to talk to her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
You know, I'm going to share a story that I remember that, you know, part of it was funny in the moment. It was also terrifying in the moment.
Oh man, I have no idea what you're going to share.
But it also was something really big. And you know, we've shared this before on the podcast, but we were very early dating. And I still remember, because we were at my house. We were in the basement watching TV or something like that. And you look over at me.
I got it.
And you're like, Ryan, what do you think of sex before marriage?
No way.
They're already.
I said, what do you think the Bible says about sex before marriage?
Well, I heard, what do you think of sex before marriage? And I was so panicked. Because I honestly didn't know what side you were coming at this from.
You're like, oh my gosh,
what is happening right now? Right?
Like, I was so, you know, and part of context of this is that, you know, like I said, the physical attraction was clearly there, but it was something that I was wrestling with a lot.
Yeah.
Because of the situation and losing a spouse and having this feeling of guilt because you find somebody new attractive.
There's this whole other piece. Am I even allowed to
It's-
be attracted to
yes,
somebody else?
yes.
Yeah, that's a
It wa-
big process to work through. Yeah, you're right.
It was a lot of that, and so like you asked the question, and that's how I heard it in my mind.
My man brain.
And I had no idea what you were wanting in that moment. So it was like I was panicked, and I think I might have asked, well, what do you think? And you actually answered and saved me because it was purity was very important. And that was a very courageous conversation, and it was a moment that was kind of funny, terrifying, awkward, but it was also something that changed because we opted to be pure before marriage, and it was one of those moments of like, oh, actually, it was a relief to me because I was just like, oh yeah, okay, good, like. I'm okay with that too. Like, this is really good. Like, let's be honoring and so it was this moment that was really funny to me at the time, but it was really big for our story.
Yeah, you've shared that having that conversation, while it scared the heck out of you, it took a lot of pressure off the table. And once we had that boundary up, then it's like dates were really then truly just to date and get to know each other. And there was never the physical side on the table that was distracting from, like we talked about earlier, growing that deeper level of attraction.
Yes.
When it wasn't just all based around the physical level, it grew so much deeper in every other area.
Yeah. And I think because of that, because we have grown that, I do think one of the rewards of doing that is you have a greater physical attraction and intimacy because of that.
Absolutely.
Because you've grown this piece of it before, where it's not based on just the physical part of this.
Yeah.
You're growing it on something bigger.
Yeah.
And it actually, is rewarded because of that.
Yeah. You've said that many times to me. Like, I feel like God's blessed our intimate life just because of the choices we made. And if that's not your story, I think going to God with a repentant heart, it's always like a great next step for you and just truly, reconciling with God. But, and you can have that. But for us in our story, you've shared that. I agree. I feel like God has blessed our intimate life because of how we dated, and it's been really rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is awesome.
So, Tony, you talked about this earlier, stories. These stories that are your life. I mean, they make up your life, right? So what's the importance of telling this story or even going back to your story?
Yeah. Telling your story is just another way of sharing feelings. I'm going to tell you guys, the audience probably can see this and know this, but I want you guys, when this airs, go back and watch your faces, right? When you're telling your stories about what attracted you to each other, you guys are smiling and you're laughing, and it's just a great way to kind of connect and reflect. And it's one of the things when couples come in and they're in a really bad spot and they're arguing, I'll have them, hey, tell me how you met. Tell me how'd you guys get together and do that? And part of that is we have to go back and talk about that for them sometimes because it's been a really long time, or if they're in a really bad spot. Do you remember you were in love once and what that was and how that was fun? And there was this time in this moment where you guys craved to be around each other. You wanted to know each other more. You wanted to do that. And that's that importance and that power of story. And so, yeah, when this comes out, go watch and look at your faces and you're like, oh, yeah, that was kind of fun. And remember this. And you'll see these big smiles on your faces. And this thing is like, yeah, it was enjoyable and fun just to kind of relive and talk about that. And that's kind of the goal. So let's keep talking not only about the past. So what stories are you going to make going forward, right? We talked a little bit the barbecue and the car in the creek, right? There were probably stories that were fun at the soccer game when you're walking around and you're laughing. And so the more that you share those stories and have those experiences together, it kind of keeps building and doing it. So that's the importance of stories. So when you're like, hey, we're going to talk about this. That's the, like, why are we talking about attraction? There's because it'll make you tell their story, and it makes you get connected, and you will see it. You'll get to see it when you go back and look, but it's just fun. And hopefully it comes across when I'm telling my story, like, oh, I'm having to write letters and I'm having to do this. And I was asking my wife about some of this stuff the other night. It's like, hey, we're going to talk about this. What do you think? And what was funny is she had some of the same stories.
Oh, that's cool.
She's like, oh,
that's cool.
What about this story? Like, you should talk about that time when we actually talked about before we were going to date. I'm like, yeah, I already got that one written down. Oh, you should talk about this. I'm like, I already got that one written down. So it was kind of funny. Is like, because she was talking and taking notes, and I'm like, these are my thoughts, and they matched, and they were there. Just like you're like, hey, tell the story about when us in the basement. You're like, wait, oh, I know where you're going with this story. All of a sudden, you remembered, right? Yeah. And that's the fun part, is just sharing those stories is just another easy way of sharing that connection, sharing those feelings, and kind of building on that.
I love that, Tony. I feel like sharing about your attraction can then in turn make you more attracted. Mm-hmm. It's like cyclical. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, Tony, I like this concept of story, but I think it also is very important on what story you tell. And I think that's the easy part of you can look at all of the things that went wrong, or you can look at, like, it's easy to miss the moments that happen, that are fun, that tell such an amazing story, because you're focused on one little thing and you're telling that story.
And just focusing on the positive, right? Think about what just happened here. It's like, hey, we got to wrap this up. This has kind of been getting to the end. We're like, what? No, this is fast. Because it was enjoyable. It's fun. It's easy, right? Yeah. If we had just said, hey, we're going to talk about your frustrations with each other and how that's going. About 20 minutes in, you're like, are we done? Can this be over with?
This is done.
This is not fun. So I like what you're saying, Ryan, is like really making sure you put the right focus and time and energy on the story. Are you going to tell the story of frustration and anger and complaining and those, we talk about opposites attract, where you don't match with your spouse? Or are you going to tell the story of, hey, here's a funny time where we didn't match, and I really love that we didn't match?
Yeah.
This has been super fun. And you're right, time has flown today. So Tony, thanks for being here. Do you have any final parting thoughts for us? Where can we follow along?
I guess the easiest part is go to www.tonyboer.com, and you can find all
BOER.
BOER, yep. Find all the stuff and connect and see the little posts and the little different things like that. But final thought is, go share your story. Go talk, reflect on some of that fun stuff.
Awesome. Thank you to our listener for joining us today on the Celebrate Marriagecast. You can find us at Celebrate.church/marriage for resources. If you don't have a church home, you can join us online at Celebrate.church. If you're in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area, we would love to have you here on the weekend. And we hope that you have a great rest of your week. See ya.
Have a great week. Bye.